Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 5-0. With that, we will move to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome everyone to the April 22nd Board of Education meeting. The school year is rapidly approaching its end, but not quite. So with that, may I have a motion to accept agenda item 3A, the approval of minutes from our March 25 meeting?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0. With that, we'll move to agenda item 4, which are communications. The district received thank you letters from North Middle School PTO, the Great Neck Paraprofessionals Union, SHI, and Great Neck Alert Fire Company. In addition, several letters were received regarding the safety of artificial turf and the proposed capital expenditure for North Middle School. May I have a motion to accept agenda item 4A? May I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. At this time, we'll move to agenda item 5, which are recognitions. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Bossert, who will introduce this month's special recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Tock, and thank you to all members of the Board of Education to afford us the opportunity tonight to recognize some outstanding students. It is always a wonderful pleasure at every public meeting when we are given the opportunity to recognize either students, staff, members of the school community, and tonight we have some outstanding students from North High School to recognize. And to assist us in doing so, I would like to call upon our beloved acting principal, Mr. Tom DiPaolo.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to the students of Great Neck North. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Levine and Mrs. Snyder, and they're going to recognize you with individual comments about your greatness. That's the cue, guys. All right, there you go. Okay.
Good evening, President Tock and the members of the Board of Education, Dr. Bossert, and the members of the Central Office, colleagues, community members, and honored guests. The North High School administrative team is thrilled to be able to recognize the students we have here tonight with the Models of Excellence Award. These young people, each in their own way, have demonstrated the traits that we cherish, and they have made us, and I am sure they will continue to make us, extremely proud. Will the following students please come forward and join Ms. Snyder? Nina Bickman, Jacqueline Chen, Mark Hyman, Emma Lavian, Kaden Lee, Mia Malhotra, Maxwell Poor, Ava Ruderman, Nava Sedigat, and Diana Smolens. We can give an early round of applause for everyone. Okay, let's see how these directions, if I'm still able to instruct. Nina Bickman. Nailed it. Nina radiates warmth that instantly lifts the spirits of those around her. Her natural charisma and kindness make everyone feel seen and valued. She's a talented actress whose contagious energy captivates audiences with a warmth that leaves a lasting impression. Well done, Nina. Jacqueline Chen. Jackie embodies kindness, selflessness, and an unwavering commitment to making a positive impact on others. She autonomously organized art workshops for younger children in our community and made sure that they were accessible to all, regardless of financial constraints. Mark Hyman. Mark embodies a deep appreciation for education as evidenced as the organizer of our school's peer tutoring club, fostering a collaborative and inclusive environment. Always respectful and eager to contribute, Mark leads with a natural ease that uplifts those around him. Emma Lavian. Emma is seen by her classmates as a role model. This multi-sport athlete and athletic leadership board member is also a class officer and is tireless in devoting her time to the causes that move us all forward. Caden Lee. Caden is incredibly well-rounded and has proven himself to be a scholar, athlete, and perhaps most importantly, an individual of tremendous character. He takes on countless roles in an unassuming manner because they are meaningful to him without seeking accolades or status. Mia Malhotra. Mia is an upstander, an advocate for others. She leads with compassion and integrity. She is involved in countless activities that highlight her consideration and empathy. Most notably, she holds the secretary position of junior players, helping lead club meetings, and has been involved in 8 productions thus far in her high school career. Maxwell Poor. Max clearly loves North High School and strives to make it a better place by serving as a role model to younger students through his roles as a peer leader and a peer mentor. A dedicated varsity athlete who models high standards, Max is an individual who is always willing to put himself out there in multiple roles, never hesitating to assist others. Ava Ruderman. This young woman has a smile and energy that spreads joy wherever she goes. Her passion for working with individuals with special needs and the homeless, both inside and outside of school. Ava helps package food for the homeless through the Rise Against Hunger group, and her actions speak volumes as to who she is. Nava Setagat. The world needs more Navas. People who radiate a zest for life in the kindest, most authentic manner. She possesses a level of maturity well beyond her years, injecting North High School with positivity daily. This year, Nava is one of a handful of juniors who were asked to work with our 10th grade advisory program, a role typically reserved for our seniors. And last but certainly not least is Diana Smolens. Diana is a wonderful student, empathetic soul, and a phenomenal citizen who admirably lends her time and energy to various endeavors within the Great Neck North community and beyond, with a focus on mental health initiatives, including Cohen's Strong Mental Health Program, where she has earned certification in teen mental health first aid. Members of the board and central office, I present to you 10 of North High School's finest.
And with that, we'll move to agenda item 6, which are the student delegate reports. This month's student delegate reports will be given by North High School, Letitia Kaya, Vivian Adut, and Benjamin Nathan.
Good evening, Board of Education. My name is Letitia Kaya, and I'm here with another student delegate report. Lots of great stuff have been happening at South Middle School. In April, the 6th grade physical education classes had a special visit from St. John's University student athletes and their mascot. The St. John's student athletes read to our classes as part of the Big East Battle of the Books. The physical education department hosted the annual Relay Field Day badminton tournament on March 27th, and it was a really big success. Students had lots of fun and raised money for a good cause. Additionally, South Middle School welcomed visiting author Robin Ha, who shared her life and graphic novel creation. Ms. Ha engaged students in grades 6 to 8 in a graphic novel writing workshop where students created their own characters and storylines. The Great Neck South Middle held its annual spaghetti dinner fundraiser on April 3rd, supporting our student field trip scholarship fund. Over 40 local businesses donated trays of their best foods, and over 500 community members broke bread together at this ultimate community event. The World Language Department held its annual Teacher for a Day presentations. Students prepared small lessons on languages of their choice to present to their classmates and teachers. They often chose to teach about basic conversations, foods, or leisure activities. Many students included some multicultural insight as well. These presentations happened to coincide with our yearly International Apparel Day. South Middle School's Science Olympiad achieved its best ever finish at the Science Olympiad State Tournament in Syracuse, New York. The team was the top performing school in all of Long Island for the first time in its history and finished with the best score ever, finishing 4th in the state. South Middle School research students presented their work at the Long Island Science Fair with a variety of fascinating projects, such as Can Humans Tell the Difference Between Real Photographs and AI-generated photos, and Are plant-based spray cleaners equally as effective as non-plant-based cleaners? Lastly, students at South Middle science classes celebrated Earth Day with a variety of activities such as planting vegetables and flowers, embarking on ecology walks, and collecting biodiversity data on birds by examining humans' ability to live on Earth in a sustainable manner.
Now on to North Middle School. Students in the English as a New Language, ENL, standalone classes recently participated in the ENL storytelling event. This engaging project challenged students to write personal narratives about courage, focusing on significant moments in their lives. Over several weeks, they refined their stories and practiced memorizing them. The event culminated in a live presentation where students bravely shared their narratives without using notes. This showcase not only demonstrated their improved English language skills, but also highlighted their personal growth and confidence. The ENL storytelling event was a remarkable achievement for all participants, celebrating their progress in language acquisition and public speaking. Acclaimed young adult author Jordan Sonnenblick visited North Middle School on Thursday, March 27th, delivering an inspiring presentation to students. He shared how real-life experiences shape his character and stories, making them relatable to young readers. Sonnenblick opened up about his own middle school struggles, using humor to connect with students. He explained how these challenges influenced his writing and encouraged students to use their own experiences creatively. Mr. Sonnenblick shared the inspiring story behind The Secret Sheriff of 6th grade, emphasizing the importance of gratitude and making a positive impact. His visit motivated students to embrace reading, writing, and their unique experiences. The author's presentation left a lasting impression on the North Middle School community, inspiring students to overcome challenges and pursue their passions. At a ceremony on March 25th, North Middle School awarded the Quality of Life Awards to those 8th graders whose actions and involvement have been recognized by staff and administrators as contributing positively to the quality of life in our school. We thank these 8th grade leaders for helping to make North Middle the great place that it is for the students and staff to come and learn and work, respectively. Congratulations to North Middle's All-County artists. We're proud to announce that 9 of our talented students have been selected All-County artists this year. Their outstanding artwork was featured in an exhibition showcasing pieces from K through 12 students across Nassau County. Congratulations to Lauren Ju, Ariel Nahamu, Mia Yang, Yejun Kwan, Adena Yang, Camilla Reyes, Harlan Papazian, Josephine Lee, and Yvonne Liu. Your creativity and skill make North Middle proud. We applaud your achievement and the dedication of your art teachers and families in supporting your artistic journeys. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
I'm here to share some exciting updates from South and North High. On March 23rd, the table tennis team competed in the 9th annual Table Tennis Invitational at North High, where Kingston Chan, Lewis Liu, and Captain Michael Sun brought home first place. They didn't stop there. They also won the 2025 New York High School Table Tennis Championship in Brooklyn. The team is now training hard for nationals, which will take place in Louisiana at the end of May. Earlier this month, on April 4th and 5th, the South High Music Department presented a stunning production of the opera Die Fledermaus. Congratulations to the cast, crew, and production team for putting on such a lively and memorable performance. On April 11th, South held their annual Career Day. It was a great opportunity for students to explore various paths and engage with professionals from a wide range of industries. Looking ahead, Theater South will be hosting its one-act play festival from May 8th through May 10th. These performances are student-directed, and we invite everyone to come out and support our talented performers. I'm also very excited to share some of the recent achievements and events from North High School. Our physics team recently competed in the Yale Physics Olympics, where they earned an impressive 3rd place out of 25 teams. Team members Serena Chen, Nathan Zong, Aiden Jin, and Julian Elihu also took 1st place in one of the featured events, Ryman's Rectangle Reckoning, where they had to calculate the area under a complex curve with high precision. In the arts, our North Thespians recently brought Sense and Sensibility to life on stage. It was a true team effort, not just by the performers, but also by the students, managing lights, sound, stage crew, and even ushering. It was inspiring to see our students collaborate so creatively and passionately. On April 8th, we observed Holocaust Remembrance Day with programming tailored for each grade. Freshmen had lessons in their social studies classes, sophomores explored stations in the library on Holocaust history and other genocides, juniors attended an assembly where Miss Wadowski shared her grandfather's powerful story, and seniors heard from Dr. Bernie Fershpan of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. It was a meaningful and moving experience for our entire school community. Lastly, we are proud to recognize Great Neck North student Jade Nabavian, who will be honored at the Nassau County Holocaust Remembrance Day commemoration at Adelphi University on May 15th for her efforts to build bridges across communities and foster a more civil society. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those terrific reports. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Bossert for his superintendent's report.
Thank you, and candidly, the students did such a comprehensive and wonderful job. I checked about 8 of my 10 boxes on what I plan to share with the board. So we appreciate the assistance. I'm going to yield most of my time to Mr. O'Keefe tonight, who's going to take the board and community through one of our final budget presentations. But there were just 2 items that I wanted to draw attention to. One is just prior to the spring break, which I hope all of our families enjoyed. Students, we missed you, but we hope you were off doing wonderful things and making memories. Just prior to the break, our middle school students got to experience the New York State assessments in ELA. And as our communications to the community indicated, we had some difficulties experiencing that assessment, courtesy of some software glitches and the New York State Education Department. I wanted to take a moment to commend our students and faculty for navigating those challenges prior to the break. This was a already rigorous, already strenuous, stressful portion of our school year when we give these assessments, and to have the added stressor of the technology not working up to expectations was something that no one needed, and it took additional time and resources away from what could have been instructional time. I thank our teachers and our staff and our administrators for pivoting the way they did to make sure we could complete those middle school assessments. And we are concerned that New York State needs to do some things differently on the move forward in order to make sure these assessments go smoothly throughout the state. And we have confidence that that will occur for our elementary students. I do, however, would be remiss if I didn't commend our students. They really persevered through a challenging period, and I wanted to thank them and their teachers for navigating that just prior to our break. In addition, we are obviously very carefully monitoring the lack of a state budget in New York, and Mr. O'Keefe will give some indication of that during his budget presentation. We are hearing that it should be sooner than later that the state adopts its budget for the year. But obviously it puts this board and this district in a difficult position of being obligated to adopt a budget without that known set figure of what we will be receiving in state aid. Our business office is up to the challenge, has continued to see plans in place regardless of where the state lands. But it is unfortunate that our lawmakers have not yet come to an agreement on a budget. But we know they're busily working. We had a meeting set for Friday with our local representatives, Senator Martins and Assemblyman Norber. They have asked us to postpone that meeting as they plan to be hard at work in Albany So we'll reschedule with them, and we hope that their efforts bring positive conclusion for the Great Neck School community. And Mr. O'Keefe will elaborate on that a bit. The other piece that we're watching very carefully is news coming from Washington and the Department of Education. This is an extraordinary time where since 1979 under the Carter administration, there has been a Department of Education to provide oversight and guidance to some of the work we do at the state level. And that seems to be changing under the current administration. And that's fine. We are working with the regulations and the guidance that we receive. And I'll remind the board that most of the regulations that guide our public work here in Great Neck is from the New York State Education Department. The influence from the federal department obviously does have an impact on some of the regulations and laws that govern our operations, but none of that has changed. And we are keeping a very close eye on the funding that is associated with the Federal Department of Education, which is really the primary concern with any changes at the department. But we have been given every assurance that the funding sources will continue to provide the programs and services that are essential to our student success. But again, Mr. O'Keefe will likely touch upon these topics within his budget update. And the only other item that I wanted to commend is our South High robotics team is returning from their trip to Houston. And while they are not returning this year with the same weight of hardware that they brought back with them last year, the life experience, the memories, the collegiality, the camaraderie that they achieve. These students drive halfway across the country by bus during their break, disrupting their family holiday recognitions to spend that time together. And our advisors and the team really put together quite the journey on their stops along the way and on the way back. Coach Machkovitz sent me some wonderful pictures of the students posing with their robot in front of the Capitol building in DC yesterday and watching the ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier as well. And really, this is an experience that is very valuable and unique in addition to the national competition they attend with robotics. So kudos to the team for sacrificing their spring break for robotics initiatives and their faculty advisors and chaperones who did that with them, as well as the families who traveled across the country following a bus to watch their students compete. And of course, they made Great Neck and our school community very proud once again, and we look forward to welcoming them back and celebrating their successes. Thus concludes my report. And if I may, Mr. Talk, I know our students have an early start to their school day, as does our high school administration. And while you are welcome to stay for Mr. O'Keefe's captivating analysis of our budget, if you should choose to go home and complete your studies and your homework and prepare for your morning, now would be the appropriate time to do so. Absolutely.
It's something I said.
Who knew you were so popular, Mr. O'Keefe?
Waiting for the changeover in technology, and I believe we're all set. So again, good evening to the Board of Education, Dr. Bossert, my fellow cabinet members, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge two people that probably like recognition far less than myself. That would be Mr. Ernst, our school business administrator, and my administrative assistant, Mr. Rakas, who are instrumental in helping me put all this information together to build a budget each year, so they certainly deserve recognition as well. See what happens when you come to a board meeting? All right. So this is just a summation of all the topics we've covered over the last few months, as well as some information about the remaining budget timeline, information about where to vote. And again, all this information always ends up on our website, so anyone can go back and reference it. This particular slide obviously just lists the remaining timeline. May 12th is our official budget hearing. That's the community's last opportunity. Take a look at the draft budget and ask any questions. May 20th, of course, is the vote for the budget. Proposition 1, Proposition 2, Proposition 3, which is the library vote, and then also you have a trustee election. And if you're not sure where to vote, certainly you can utilize the poll finder tool on our website or reach out to the district clerk. Other resources to explore, like I just mentioned, all of this is up on our website. That hyperlink in the middle of the slide will take you directly to all the budget information. Or if you just go to the top right of our website, the homepage, you'll see that blue box that you see down on the bottom right here on the screen. It says 25-26 budget information. That will hyperlink you right to all the budget pages. So this slide we've covered over the last two presentations. There's nothing really here changing. Obviously, the budgeting is done each year within the tax levy cap limits. This year's levy will increase by 3.05%, which is within the 2% tax cap calculation, and also far less than the nearly 5% inflation rate increase that we've averaged over the last 4 years. Preserves all programs, all of our offerings, our pre-K, everything that the community and families expect, and then also reinvests a tremendous amount of money within the budget back into the district in the way of various capital projects. The big project that's on the budget agenda for this year is a full renovation of the South High Auditorium. We're also going to do some work in the robotics lab with installing a proper exhaust and dust collection system for them. The hot water collection system at South High, South Middle, it's all one plant. That tank needs to be replaced. We need a new public address system at JFK, as well as a footbridge into the development on the west side of the property. The rear section of the roof on Lakeville was last replaced in 1998. That section of roofing will be replaced. 2 bathrooms at Village School need full renovation, and we also need 1 boiler replaced at Cumberland. And total investment that's within the budget and within the tax cap formula is about $10.5 million being done within the context of the budget, and $7.7 million of that number is the renovation of the South High Auditorium all by itself. So the budget that I'm going to be asking the board to review and adopt this evening obviously has changed over the last few months. The March 12th presentation, we reviewed all of the non-instructional items within the budget, and that total was about $143,132,000. March 25th's presentation, which was our full instructional budget, everything related to the students, $148,637,000. I've had to make several adjustments since those two presentations to reduce the budget down to get it within not only obviously the tax cap limits, but also total revenue limits. You know, certainly each year you only have a certain number of dollars to spend. I needed to get the expenditure budget down within those limits. And that was all done with not any impact to program, no layoffs to staff, nothing of that effect. But there are certain savings that are realized each year. During the budget season, it's when we learn when there'll be certain retirements. So 11 teachers are retiring, there's administrators retiring, there's support staff that are retiring. So we take into consideration what those savings are. We also examined some monies that we had left in this year's budget that we could utilize to buy materials for next year. In the last board meeting, the Board of Education authorized a budget transfer to execute those purchases. So we were able to bring the budget down nearly $1.8 million since those last two presentations to arrive at a proposed expenditure budget of $289,998,000. And that's a 2.84% increase over the current year, so actually a lower percentage than the levy increase. Any questions from the board before I move on? So this slide breaks down the expenditure budget in the categories that we examined it in the last two presentations. So if you remember, we looked at the budget in the functional ranges, so each of those numbers in the account code actually relate to a certain category of the budget. So like we said, the 1,000s were general support, 2,000s were everything related to instruction, 5,000s were transportation, etc. So this just shows the current 24-25 voter-approved budget, and so the middle of the slide, the next column to the right is the proposed budget for next year. So modest increases of less than 2% in general support. Our instructional budget's growing by about 2.5%. Transportation is a driver that does increase more than typically the levy amount because it's driven by another metric. We actually are required, there's a contract for transportation, and the contract providers can renew that contract annually at the consumer price index that's released in May each year, which is not the same CPI that the budget is controlled by, but it doesn't have that same limiting factor of 2% like we're controlled in the budget. So whatever that CPI number is, that's what the growth is. So next year we anticipate growth of about 3.7%. Recreation budget we talked about when we went through that category, why it's almost a 25% increase. The last few years, a big portion of the recreation budget has been paid for by those COVID grants. So this year, all of those costs for the program will be coming back to the district. But on the opposite side, there's also an increase in revenue. So whereas there wasn't parental payments for certain things that were included that were covered by the grants, now there'll be parental tuitions, which will counterbalance this anticipated increase. Now, this is anticipating recreation to be at the same level it was in the last few years. We don't know if now that there's added costs, whether parents will or will not participate. If they don't, this expense might be lower, and there'll be a counter on the opposite side with revenue with lower revenues. The real area that helped us bring this budget together was much lower than we've seen in the last few years with employee benefits. Less than a 1% year-over-year increase. Health insurance was basically flat. So this was really the area of the budget we were able to bring everything together and keep it within that projected revenue amount. We did have an energy performance contract payment. That payment that'll fall off this year, almost $1 million. So that's why you see the 57% drop off in the 9,700 categories. And the last categories is the 9,900s. Those are our debt payments on the bond debt. Those are the capital projects we spoke about, the $10.5 million. That's payment to operate our summer special education programs, and it's also monies earmarked to send special education students to specialized 4201 schools. So there is some growth there. Part of it is bringing that $1 million over from the debt side so we could actually expedite additional capital projects, but there have been other increases with the special education tuition-related programs. So again, it's that 2.84% year-over-year increase, or about $8 million. The levy we covered in our first presentation, nothing has changed. The only thing that could have changed, like I had mentioned then, is if building aid changed in our final state aid calculations. Since we still don't have a state budget, there is nothing to modify in the formula other than we'll just accept that what they provided us back in January will be the building aid that we'll receive for next year. So like we discussed at the time we went through the calculation, it's not simply just adding 2% onto the current year's levy. There is actually a formula. It's a rather long algebraic formula, but I try to distill it down into simple addition and subtraction. You start with the current year's levy, which is the $236,985,000 you see on the top of the formula. You add to that the tax-based growth factor. That's the $355,000 you see. That's a number we receive from New York State. It's the growth in the district of accessible properties. So it could be brick and mortar growth, something new construction, or it could be additions onto existing houses. So the assessed values within the districts have increased, and therefore there's additional monies that are built into the levy. The 2% piece is the allowable levy growth factor. So it's 2% or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. Consumer price index this past year was 2.95%. So again, we can only go with the 2%. So it's $4.6 million growth in the levy. There were no exclusions in our teacher retirement system or employer retirement system. So there wasn't any growth greater than 2% in those categories. Change in pilots. Some of the properties in the district don't pay property taxes. There are payment in lieu of taxes. So the local IDA in Nassau County will make a deal with a particular, it could be a residential building, it could be a commercial building, as an incentive for them to develop in the community. We'll take you off the tax rolls and you'll pay this lower pilot payment for a period of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, some are 30 years. So in the coming year, our pilots are anticipated to increase by about $95,000. So if pilots increase, you deduct it from the levy calculation. And then the change in the capital tax levy was just the plus and minuses of our building aid, the addition of some capital projects, and our bond debt payments going into next year. And that gives you a total calculation for next year's levy of $244,222,000. And like we said, that's within the 2% tax cap calculation. So we only require a simple majority vote. We're not trying to pierce the cap. It's just a simple 50% plus 1. It's a 3.05% increase over the current year. We're about $7.2 million. Estimated state aid is still estimated. This hasn't changed since the last time I showed you this slide. I show you the adopted budget in 24-25. You also remember from last year, we adopted our budget before the state adopted theirs. So there were some changes after the state adopted their budget. We actually lost about $100,000 in aid. But using that adopted budget against the proposed budget, we get about 4.22% increase in state aid, or $646,000. I mean, the percentage sounds great, but the dollar amount obviously is not very material. Altogether, we get just shy of about $16 million in aid. You know, certainly this community sends far more to Albany than it gets back in the form of aid. Most of the district's budget is on the taxpayer with the way the state's formula is designed. And the other disclaimer I keep on the bottom is always to remember that $1.3 million that you see for the universal pre-K is not a revenue source in the general fund budget that can just fund pre-K. In our case, that dollar amount, we can only use about half of it. A couple of years ago, the state increased our UPK allocation, but that increase was only to be used for full day only. Since we only operate currently a half-day program in the district, about half of that money cannot be utilized. It's basically a grant. So we operate the pre-K program. That was one of the interfund transfers we just looked at on the other slide. The general fund budget actually pays about $1.2 million a year to support the pre-K program. And then we get about another $600,000 or so from the state. The remaining monies are not received from us, so it's not like we're giving them back. They only reimburse us up to the allowable limit. The proposed revenue budget, like we said, the revenue budget has to equal the expenditure budget. So that middle column there is that property tax levy we just looked at, the $244 million. The state aid, again, it's not the nearly $16 million you saw, but it's only the 14.6 because the pre-K aid is removed from there. Miscellaneous revenues, that's interest income, that's lease monies on our rental properties, that's payments that parents make to the district for various things, that's tuition other districts pay us to send children to our district, things like that. We receive about $18 million a year in miscellaneous revenues. Appropriated reserves, so those are monies from our restricted reserves, and that's the blue bullets you see below. So part of the funding stream for next year's budget is to appropriate about $9 million from our restricted reserves, $1.4 million for our workers' compensation. School districts in most municipalities don't have workers' compensation insurance. We're all self-funded, so we self-fund all of our claims. That's why we maintain a reserve to set aside monies to pay for workers' comp claims. $1.4 million is approximately our annual costs. The employee retirement system, again, those are monies the district pays on behalf of the employees into the retirement system for future pension costs. $4.1 million is our estimated bill for next year. So we'll take that money from the reserve, which again, that's its purpose. Same thing with the teachers' retirement system. $2.3 million just represents a small portion of that bill, but that's the maximum we have available in that particular reserve that we can utilize. The employee benefit accrued liability reserve, $1.15 million. That's dollars that are used at year end for employees who retire, who might be owed, say, sick day or vacation day benefits as part of their contract. We keep a reserve, so again, that we have a revenue source to pay for those payments as those people separate from the district. We put monies away over years so that they're there and there's not a big surge in a budget that we can't accommodate. And the same thing with unemployment. It's just a modest expense. Quite honestly, we probably wouldn't even spend the $60,000, but that's probably the maximum that we might need. You don't take these full amounts from the reserves unless you spend that much. So let's say in workers' comp, we only spent $1.2 million next year. We won't take out the 1.4 as part of our revenue stream. We'll only take out the 1.2. The rest will stay in the reserve and maintain that balance. And then the last category of revenue is appropriated fund balance. That's actually, unrestricted monies that the board has access to. That's something that if you go back a few years, we've talked about this. We were probably approaching somewhere close to $9 million in appropriated fund balance. That amount is too high. So each year we've methodically brought that amount down. I had hoped to bring it down a little bit lower next year, but unfortunately with the cost of inflation over the last 3 or 4 years, it's just too tight. But we were successful in bringing it down almost another $200,000 to the $3.9 million you see there. So again, revenues match the expenditure budget at the $289,998,000, or 2.84%. The proposed use of capital reserve, we've spoken about this the last few presentations, but this is the finalized version of the proposition. I have to thank our friends, legal counsel. Obviously, they have to put it into the proper legal terminology, which makes it a bit wordy. Thankfully, on either end of that very long paragraph in black up there, you'll see the very first sentence says, this proposition is to utilize funds from the capital reserve, which has no financial impact on the voter. And it closes out by the paragraph by stating, approval of this proposition will not require a tax levy upon the real property of the school district. So summarizing what it all says down in the blue, it's simply a proposition for the voters to consider. Is there permission to withdraw funds from the existing capital reserve for the proposed field improvements which is described above at the North Middle School field on Arundel, as well as a full renovation of a former shop room in North Middle to make it into a multi-purpose classroom. So those renovations of the synthetic turf field, resurfacing of the track, installing the necessary drainage, site work, fencing, sidewalks, lighting, things of that nature to fully improve the property. So again, there's 2 separate propositions. First one will be the budget. The second one will be for use of the capital reserve for this turf field. And the second proposition does not impact the budget, nor does it impact the tax levy. And like I said earlier in the discussion, we have one final meeting before the vote. That's on May 12th, which is the official budget hearing. It's an opportunity, if the community has any questions, they can certainly ask before they go to the ballots. And with that, are there any questions from the board?
So Keith, can you just reiterate that the Proposition 2, how does that not affect the taxpayer?
It does not. Yeah, again, these are monies that the community voted last May to allow the board to set aside a capital reserve fund. So just like we have those reserves for workers' comp or the retirement system or for the employee payouts, things of that nature, this is a separate reserve outside of those reserves where the monies can only be used for voter-approved capital projects. So on this year's ballot, the particular project that we're offering for their consideration is those capital improvements at North Middle. So voting on that, the monies are already there in this, let's say, separate bank account. So approving it just allows the board the ability to access those funds to move forward with the project.
Thank you.
It is not. I can, but people at home might not be able to.
You, Mrs. Chan, I'm going to use your mic. So, Mr. O'Keefe, I want to thank you very much for your presentation and also to congratulate you in advance for item 9C. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you to Mr. Ernst and Ms. Duraka also. Regarding the capital proposition, which I agree with what was just said, of course, but in the heaven forbid scenario where there are cost overruns because of inflation, can you just walk us through what happens if we needed more monies to cover the cost of the anticipated improvements? Would the monies come from another reserve? Would they come from operating expenses? Would they come from more borrowing? And also, part B, how would you calculate the anticipated overruns? Is there a way to do that? Thank you.
Well, again, the number that is presented was reviewed by two separate entities. It's our construction managers reviewed it, as well as our architects, using what the current costs are for similar projects in other districts, knowing approximately a 5% year-to-year increase, so those numbers are loaded, knowing it's going to be for 25, 26. Certainly, there's always contingencies put in, especially when you're doing something as complex as a turf field, because quite honestly, you don't necessarily know what you're going to find underneath the existing field when it's pulled up and drainage is put in. So anytime there's inflation that impacts the overall budget, you've had similar issues with some of the work approved by the community in the 2017 bond. For example, the library at North High. As we got to the end of the capital, the available monies for the bond, several years had passed. Unfortunately, COVID slowed down the progress of the work on the bond. And when we got to the end and we were ready to do one of the bigger premier projects within that bond, which was the renovation of North High Library, there was insufficient monies. So in last school year's budget, we went to the voters, we let them know that that occurred, and we asked them permission to place it into the budget. So the current year's budget included an extra $3 million to perform that renovation. I don't foresee COVID getting in the way again, hopefully. So if the voters approve this in May, then we start the development process. Plans have to go up to New York State. It takes State Education Department upwards of 40 weeks to review and ultimately approve any particular project. So it takes the better part of next school year. This time next year, April-ish, you would hopefully be getting a building permit. Once you have the building permit in hand, that's when you can actually publicly advertise the bids to have the work performed. The work would be bidded out. Obviously, when you build a bid that's this complex, we're not just going to build it, say, we want all of these items. You have the installation of the turf field, you have another alternate for the lighting, an alternate for the grandstand, an alternate for the track. All of the different components get broken out into what we call alternates, so that when the bids start coming in, there is that option that if, for some reason, if inflation has gone past what we've anticipated and the dollars are coming in much higher than we can allow, we can make the decision we reject all bids and bid it again, or if we believe that this is really what the going rate is for particular things and we don't have enough money for all of the items, we can not award certain alternates. The project can progress and move on, and we can either then use budgeted monies, we can ask the voters again in next year's vote if they want to use monies from the capital reserve for the difference. So it could delay the project, but certainly the bulk of the project could continue while we figure out which is the best methodology to fund any shortfall.
So thank you very much. I was here for that bond. That's why I asked the question. I thought it would be important to elucidate the point.
Sure.
I appreciate your transparent and clear answer, but it sounds like those contingencies would be planned for on an as-needed basis. The decision has not yet been made because we're not there yet.
Right, and the other important thing to remember is that dollar amount is the maximum dollar amount. Now, I've done similar projects at different times, and for other reasons, prices might come in much lower than we anticipate. So let's say the total cost of all the work, inside and out is only $8 million. That other $800,000 isn't removed from the reserve. It stays in the reserve and continues to earn interest, and we only utilize, what is needed on the project. It's not an authorization, just pull out money, and if we have extra, let's use it for something else. It can only be used for those very specific things in that proposition. And any additional monies that are not necessary get returned to the reserve. And then in a future year, the board can go back to the community with whatever the next project is that they want to offer up for their consideration.
So just to make sure I understand, it's the 2017 bond approved projects that were not essentially started and completed for many years thereafter. So there was more time, the potential for inflation to erode that value
and
over a longer period of time.
That, and obviously, the world changed during COVID
Right.
with increases in prices. So not only couldn't you get things done because there just wasn't the capacity, but during that time, inflation just grew beyond what anyone could consider. Because, when architects or engineers are helping a district develop a bond campaign, they know that $74 million isn't getting done in one summer. They know it's going to be spaced out over 4 or 5 years, and they anticipate that, we're going to do this project in year 1, this is going to be in year 2, and so on. And each of those subsequent components, they typically add on about 5% to those numbers annually, just to, what the average inflation is on construction projects.
Great, thank you very much. And I
Very
guess since I'm talking, I would like to thank everybody in the budget office. I know it hasn't been an easy budget year. There's still uncertainties around, and I know how much work it took. And I also would just like to highlight just the work that you've done, the budget office has done over the last few years on that appropriated fund balance line item. I don't think people realize the significance of having brought that number down substantially. And yet again, almost another $200,000. It really has helped improve the financial foundation of the school district. And I think it just bears mentioning because of the critical importance and the great work that's been done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, and sir, you had asked about questions. If you'd like to ask questions, you can find a yellow card outside. Just fill out the yellow card, submit it to our district clerk, Ms. Malazzi, who's sitting at the end of that table over there, at the to your left end of that table, and I'll call your name. Perfect. With that, since there are no more comments, we can move to agenda item 9, which or 9A, which is SECRA for 2025-2026 capital improvements. May I have a motion to accept the agenda item 9A?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Next, agenda item 9B, the adoption of the general fund operating budget and the property tax report card for the 2025-2026 school year. May I have a motion to accept agenda item 9B?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. And with that, as Ms. Sassouni alluded to before, we are moving to agenda item 9C, which is a tenure recommendation. Dr. Bossert, I hand it over to you. Sure. May I have a motion to accept? I got too excited there.
So
Mr.
moved.
O'Keefe. May I have a motion to accept agenda item 9C?
Second.
Any discussion? I would just like to say ahead of time, congratulations to Mr. O'Keefe. I know I've said this at least 200 times since your arrival, but I'm grateful for your arrival and the people you've brought and helped bring along. This school district is in much better financial shape because of the work that you do, and most people probably are not aware that your work goes far beyond the budget and not only encompasses turf fields, but your portfolio is broad and deep. And I'm always in awe of the responsibilities that you balance on a daily basis. And again, I'm just going to say I'm very grateful that you're here, and this was well earned. So with that,
I'd like to just add a few words, if I
sure.
might. Mr. O'Keefe, John, I am continually impressed by your attention to detail, your thoroughness and your integrity, and I just hope that you can maintain this level of sleeplessness, sleep deprivation, and cheer. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Sassouni. And with that, all in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion passes 5-0. Congratulations, Mr. O'Keefe.
Thank you to the Board of Education for supporting this recommendation. This is the second time I have had the pleasure of bringing forward recommendations to the board to recognize the contributions of Mr. O'Keefe. The first was a title change from that of Assistant Superintendent to Deputy Superintendent, which I thought was a more apt reflection of the vast duties and responsibilities Mr. O'Keefe is taking on in a leadership position at district office. And now tenure. There are statutory requirements regarding the affording of tenure by a Board of Education. For certain positions within a school district, there's a required 3 or 4 year probationary period in order to be recommended for tenure. The position of Deputy Superintendent does not have that requirement, and it is the authority of the Superintendent to bring forward a recommendation anytime, hoping that the Board will support such a recommendation. So while Mr. O'Keefe is approaching his 3 full years in Great Neck, he has not yet met that mark, but in conversation with the Board and in reflection of the confidence and support that the Board and the Superintendent have for Mr. O'Keefe, the Board was asked to entertain a recommendation for tenure early, and this effective date of tenure is actually tomorrow morning, Mr. O'Keefe. So when you arrive at 6:15, now perhaps on your Harley or not, I haven't checked the weather report, you will be officially a tenured employee within Great Neck Public Schools, which is no small accomplishment, and congratulations on behalf of myself and the Cabinet. And we even have a certificate for you to hang on your office wall, which reads, Great Neck Public Schools, Mr. John O'Keefe, the Board of Education honors John O'Keefe on this 22nd day of April, 2025 for his exemplary service as Deputy Superintendent and for earning tenure in Great Neck School District. Congratulations, John. I'll just add a quick comment that had your budget presentation not gone as smoothly tonight and you had not been able to answer questions, I was prepared to remove the item from the agenda.
Well, he did clear out the room for us. With that, we'll move to agenda item 9D, E, F, and G, which are donations. May I have a motion to accept agenda items 9D, E, F, and G?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you to the people who made these generous donations. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Agenda item 10 is the policy. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Perez to speak.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the members of the Policy Committee, Mrs. Chan, Dr. Bossert, Mrs. Malausi, who keeps us on track all the time, and to remind those of you in the audience that policies come to us through several different manners. Some could be a change in law. Some could be a recommendation from the New York State School Boards Association, or some issue that has come up within our district that we feel needs a policy written for it. And the policies become the governance of the district. Tonight, we have several policies on the agenda for a first read. Policy 4231, Programs for Students with Disabilities under IDEA and Article 89. The Policy Committee has reviewed this policy to make sure it is in line with guidelines provided by NYSBA, New York State School Boards Association. And Policy 8113, Extreme Heat Conditions. This is a new policy, and it is being added in accordance with Education Law 409. May I have a motion to accept agenda item 10A, policies 2331 and 8113 for a first read and possible second read and adoption at the May 12th meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I just have to say I'm thrilled to hear about the extreme heat situation. Having taught here without air conditioning for 28 years, I'm happy to hear that that will take place. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Agenda item 10B is for a first read and possible adoption this evening. Policy 5695, personal electronic communication devices. Policy 6240, investments. Policy 6700, purchasing. These policies are on the agenda for a first read and adoption and were reviewed by the Policy Committee, updating current titles and adding clarification on electronic devices. This updates each policy and brings it in line with district regulations. These were very small changes, in some case a comma here or a capital there. May I have a motion to accept Agenda Item 10B, Policies 5695, 6240, and 6700 for first read and adoption?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. The policies pass 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. And with that, we will move to Agenda Item 11, which is the consent agenda. Agenda Item 11A, the approval of the consent agenda items 11B through 14A. May I have a motion to accept Agenda Item 11A?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. With that, we will move to Agenda Item 15, which is open time. At this time, if you have filled out a yellow card with all the pertinent information and handed it to our district clerk, we will ask that you come to the podium when your name is called. Please note that you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Comments regarding individual personnel or students will not be entertained. So the first person is Kevin Kwa. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Check, check. Nice. Good evening to the members of the board, faculty, and community. First, I want to thank the board for their continued hard work and dedication, and as well as letting me speak tonight. I recently had a lacrosse practice, and I had to rush to come here because I really want to take the time to share some thoughts. So first, I just want to introduce myself. My name's Kevin, and I'm a sophomore here at Great Neck South High School. I'm speaking tonight because I believe that the implementation of turf field should be our top priority. Matter of fact, I believe that the entire athletic program should be our top priority. As a dedicated athlete at Great Neck South High School and being on various teams for 2 years, I find it pretty difficult to practice on a field that is like muddy and pretty unpleasant. So when it comes to laundry time at my house, my mom would question me, Kevin, why are your socks so dirty? And I tell her, Mom, welcome to Great Neck. That's the field we practice in. According to our dedicated coaches, the fields soak up a lot of water, and with lack of proper drainage, unfortunately, the field will get soggy and wet. To my knowledge, I heard that this issue has continued for over 35 years. That's even before I was born, probably before my parents, got married. So again, it's a problem because when it rains a lot, and that happens during the spring season, the fields will stay wet and soggy for several days. And unfortunately, we can't afford to wait, several days for the fields to dry. Again, high school sports, we gotta come to practice every day. We gotta work towards games, and we can't take a few days off, unfortunately. During our April 12th game against Herrick's, again, the weather was miserable. There's rain, wind, 30 degrees, weather, you name it. We played in the middle school field. That was incredibly muddy, slippery, and unpleasant. At one point, we even started laughing while fighting for the ball because the ball was buried in the mud with the consistency of like a 7-Eleven slushie or mashed potatoes. When the ball stuck in the mud, our lacrosse sticks get stuck too. Same field hockey. Under these conditions, it's much harder to run, and slipping is almost guaranteed. These fields are so muddy that the ceramics class can even use it as clay. I know that we're the only
30 seconds, please.
I know that we're only district without turf field. When I played at our schools that have turf, I can run faster, safer, and not worry about slipping. That's why under these circumstances, implementing turf field should be our urgent priority. Every athlete deserves the opportunity to practice on a safe, enjoyable field without worrying about lacrosse ball being buried in the mud and coming home covered in it. I'm very patient through this process. I'm aware that some work has been done. Having turf field before I graduate, which is in 2027, would mean a lot to me. I respectfully urge the board to please give our athletic program a well-deserved attention. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
The next one is Hushang Farhan.
Good evening. My name is Hushang Farhan, and we are resident of Great Neck, 25 Johnston Road, and we've been resident of Nassau County for the past 33 years. I just had a question about the tax cap that everybody's talking about. We talked several times in here, and I want to understand the meaning of this tax cap. What does it mean, 2%? Does that mean that the budget from this year over last year is gone up 2%? And in that regard, the tax bills for the homeowners goes up 2%? I wonder about a clearance about this. Thank you.
It's a very fair question, sir, and I know that the calculation that's used to arrive at what the tax cap each year can be somewhat complex. Mr. O'Keefe, would you be kind enough to give the Reader's Digest version for our residents?
It's actually one of the questions that we most frequently get in my office and Mr. Ernst's office each year. So the tax levy calculation is the maximum percentage that we can increase the levy over the current year. So the levy for next year is going to grow by 3.05%. And in the perfect world, if everything in the assessor's office and in the county was all fair and equal, I could say with honesty that your tax bill will grow by 3.05%. But unfortunately, in Nassau County, and even in other counties throughout the state, but this county in particular, that's unfortunately not the case. Because while we may only increase the tax levy, which is the amount we will receive from the town, by 3% or 2% or whatever the number is, so we'll only get that finite number of dollars, how they divide up that dollar amount amongst the different taxpayers in any community is a formula and a mystery that probably none of us will be able to solve. And it's further complicated in Nassau County because several years ago, under the last county executive, there was a complete revamping of the assessment system and all of the assessments. And certain communities like Great Neck, many homes were found to be underassessed. So they've had this sliding smooth-in scale over a 5-year period where instead of catching you all up in year one, over 5 years, they've increased the amount that they collect from the taxpayer to catch up to what they believe should have been the correct number if the assessments were right. It's part of the reason why so many people grieve their taxes, if not annually, biannually. And it's great if you grieve your taxes and you win a reduction. It doesn't reduce the amount of money that's received by the district. In fact, what it actually does is take what you saved and it shares it with your neighbors. It's also like with senior exemptions or disabled exemptions or firefighters exemptions. Certain groups of people get reductions off their taxes, and it's not that the district receives less money, it's just that the portion that those particular residents are not paying is then distributed and shared by some formula controlled by the county to the other taxpayers within the district. So you can certainly call my office or Mr. Ernst's office, and we can walk you through it. Mr. Ernst regularly pulls up the actual taxpayer's bill on my Nassau properties so we can actually see your property and we can look at it and we can walk through it. But it isn't as simple as saying, if you approve this budget and I say that the levy is only going to grow by 3%, that your bill is going to only change by 3%, because that's not necessarily. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that the problem is the item that I referenced earlier, where in your particular case, your property, when the county did its reassessment, your property was deemed to be one of those ones that they felt to be underassessed for many years. So now they're, quote unquote, catching you up by increasing your tax bill by those double-digit numbers that you're seeing each year. We've seen this with a number of residents.
So without going too much further, please come in, have a conversation, bring your paperwork. We'd be happy to spend some time with you at the Fifth Substation office. For open time, we're trying not to do too much back and forth. No apologies necessary, but please, you're welcome to come in. Mr. Ernst, Mr. O'Keefe will spend as much time with you as you'd like.
Yep, you're welcome anytime, sir.
Next up is Paige Jamal.
Thank you to the entire Board of Ed and Dr. Bossert, not only for giving all of us the opportunity to speak tonight, but more importantly, for consistently creating a safe and nurturing environment where our children thrive. Your ongoing commitment to keeping their best interests at the forefront is something I deeply appreciate. Tonight, I'm going to use my 3 minutes to talk about the importance of voting yes on Proposition 2. I could speak from my perspective as a Great Neck Soccer Club board member, but I'm choosing to speak instead as a parent of 2 children with an IEP. As Dr. Bossert often says, Great Neck Public Schools is a lighthouse district, a model of excellence for others to follow. To me, that distinction goes far beyond superior academics, which are already a hallmark of our district. Being a lighthouse district means shaping the whole child, nurturing not just the mind, but the heart and the spirit through opportunities in the arts, the sciences, global studies, and athletics. Both of my children have IEPs, and while there have been moments in their educational journeys where they felt different from their peers, those differences disappear the moment they step onto the field. Sports has given them a powerful outlet for their energy and a space to grow emotionally and socially. Through athletics, they've learned teamwork, resilience, humility in both victory and defeat, and the importance of kindness to teammates and competitors alike. On the field, they're not the kid with the IEP. They're teammates, friends, equals. They're on a level playing field, so to speak. There's no greater example of inclusion, and the social emotional impact of that sense of belonging is, in my opinion, unmatched. I have full faith that the board has done its due diligence regarding the proposed turf fields and their safety. That faith comes from the same trust I place in you every day when I send my children to school. As always, I know this board will continue to act with the best interest of our children and our community at heart. So please vote yes for Prop 2. Thank you.
Next up is Amy Glass.
Hi, as you said, I'm Amy Glass, and thank you very much to the board and everyone here for taking the time to hear me out. I agree with just about everything that Paige just said, And my children, when they were here, were sports stars themselves, and I understand the importance. But I have come to the opposite conclusion about the need for an artificial turf field. Remember asbestos and lead, those controversies? It took years and years for anyone to realize that these are very dangerous to people's health. Now, we're typically not exposed to either one because there are government regulations that prevent it. Now, various government agencies are considering banning artificial turf, including the New York State Legislature. Several cities around the country and Europe have already decided against using it. Why is this so? We are increasingly aware of the dangers of microplastics, possibly increased risk of cancer and endocrine disruptions, among others. When the plastic grass in artificial turf deteriorates, as it does over time, it releases microplastics into the air. Then the children inhale them. They may not recognize this at the time, but it is happening. How can we think that installing a field made of plastic is okay? In fact, professional soccer players insist that all World Cup games be played on natural grass. They have become aware of the dangers of the plastic turf. I haven't even yet talked about turf injuries. The turf causes more of them than grass, and they are more severe as well. So now we have another whole aspect, and the turf is known to get very hot too. Artificial turf is composed of the plastic grass, which I've just discussed, and infill material, which is used as cushioning. For years, crumb rubber from ground-up tires has been used. This stuff is composed of dangerous chemicals, such as lead, which we just discussed has been banned, but it is in there, lead, arsenic, and many other cancer-causing chemicals. Under no circumstances should this be used as infill. Even if the granules are initially coated, the covering itself degrades.
30 seconds, please.
Oh, boy. Okay, very quickly. I could do it for an hour. People are now considering other types of infill, such as sand cork and coconut husks. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends avoiding sand in playgrounds. So we have no, I'm sorry, now I have to leave my thing. We have no idea what breathing coconut husk and cork fibers will do to the students' lungs. So now we're working in totally new and uncharted territory with these alternative infills.
Time's up, ma'am.
It is, okay. I just beg you to really think seriously in terms of our children's health. Paige said it all. We trust you to keep our children's health as number one. I'm all for sports. My daughter was a sports star at North High. It's not that I'm against sports. I am for them, but I want the children to be safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Glass, it seems like you might have had other remarks that you wanted to share with us. You can submit that speech to the district clerk, Ms. Milazzo, who's seated at the very end of the table, and we'll all receive a copy. You're welcome. Thank you. Justin Mays.
Good evening, Superintendent Bossert, Deputy Superintendent O'Keefe, President Tock, and members of the board. Also, thank you, Kevin, by the way, for reminding all of us the importance of student athletes' place in having the best possible facilities and fields to use. I really appreciate this speech. My name is Justin Mays. I'm a longtime community volunteer, president of the Great Neck Soccer Club, and most importantly, a proud parent of 2 student athletes, one a graduate of South, one a junior at North. Both have benefited from the excellence of our school districts, both in the classroom and on the fields. I know I don't hear this as frequently as you probably should, but I actually want to take a minute to thank you for putting Proposition 2 forward and giving the community the opportunity to decide whether the North Athletic Facility complex renovation is the right next step for Great Neck. I know how much thought, dialogue, and public input went into shaping the proposal, and I appreciate the board's transparency through the process, through budget meetings, through committee reviews, and through open discussions. By presenting this as a voter-approved capital project, you've allowed for a responsible, democratic approach to addressing an important issue that members of our community care deeply about and our student athletes deserve. Whether someone supports or opposes the project, the fact that we will all get to vote on it is a testament to our district leads with integrity, inclusion, and community trust. Thank you again for your leadership, your time, and for allowing the residents of Great Neck to have a voice in shaping the future of our school's athletic facilities.
There are no other cards at this moment. So with that, we will move to agenda item 16, which are board committee reports. Would you like me to, I guess I could do this for the budget committee.
Mr. Todd, I'd like to make a resolution from the floor, if I may. I'd like to make a statement.
That's, we go to board discussion, agenda item 17.
That's fine.
Or on
I can
agenda
wait.
item 16. So for the budget committee, we actually don't have a report to make at this point. The next meeting is Tuesday, April 29th at 6:30 p.m. in the South High School Library. Legislative committee, there is no report either. The next meeting is to be determined. It was supposed to be on April 25th, but it had Senator Martins was unable to attend, so it's been postponed. The curriculum committee similarly has no report. The next meeting is Tuesday, May 27th at 4:30 p.m. at E.M. Baker. Oh, this Thursday. Perfect. So it's this Thursday. Thank you very much. And finally, the safety committee, there's no report. So with that, we will get to agenda item 17, which is board discussion. Is there any board discussion?
Okay, so I'm really very appreciative, as I'm sure many of us are here, but I'm just going to speak for myself, of the tenor of the appreciativeness of the members of the community for the board and our effort to hear from the community. But I'm also appreciative of the time that members of the community have made to come and address the board. It's a reciprocal effort. And I'm very also mindful of, I'm speaking again for myself, I'm not a subject matter expert, right? So I really would like more opportunity to reflect. And it's in that spirit that I'm going to make this request of my colleagues. So I'm addressing my colleagues now. This is board discussion, although we're, of course, in front of the community. I think it would be a good idea for our remaining committee meetings, which are our board advisory committee meetings, which have been this year opened to the public, but only have, because of quorum rules, 2 trustees at a time. And I'm reminding all of us, we have this year established a legislative committee, as was just referenced, a curriculum committee, as was just referenced, and a budget committee. Those committees have been meeting with 2 trustees at a time, members of administration and faculty, and open to the public, but they have not been recorded. They have not been live streamed. And I, for one, although I'm a member of the public, have not been, for example, to the budget meetings or to the curriculum meetings because they're not my meetings and I did not have occasion to attend. Similarly, Mr. Chen and Mr. Tak have not necessarily been, I assume, to curriculum or what have you. I think that it would be, and it would behoove members of the board to be mindful, apprised, and fully able to attend, whether virtually or in real time, all of the meetings, particularly with what's before us. And I think it would also be helpful to the community, frankly, to have our meetings live streamed and recorded, and for the discussion had to be recorded and put on the district website so that, and it would be untimed, so that members of the community, like those who just addressed the board, would be able to speak to the board. The conversations had would be recorded and kept archived, as it were, so that as people are making up their minds in anticipation of the budget vote and the decision to be made about the field improvements, which we have all decided are very important for our community, they will have information at hand. I think that that would be helpful. And my resolution that I would like to ask for my colleagues to consider is that all of the remaining Board of Education advisory meetings of 2025, including curriculum, legislative, and budget, be live streamed and recorded. And I further move that the Thursday, April 24th curriculum advisory meeting and the April 29th budget advisory meeting previously scheduled not only be live streamed, but include a presentation regarding the details regarding the anticipated field improvements associated with the capital reserve proposition at North Middle School for all of those interested to evaluate that and to be able to engage in untimed discussion regarding this subject as well as any others which the committee chairs deem appropriate. And I would like to ask my colleagues if any would like to second my motion. Thank you.
Mr. Chen?
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Council. But just because that we're board members, I don't think we lose our rights as individuals. So we may attend those committee meetings as a member of the public in general. Is that correct? Okay. With that said, I am fully in support of transparency. Those meetings are open to the public to begin with, so there's no hidden agendas or any kind. So I would second that. I would so move to support that motion to be. I'm not sure the logistics of it for the administration, but generally speaking, I am in support of that idea and being more transparent.
If I can answer your question, Mr. Chen, before there's a vote called for, thank you, Mr. Tak. We actually began the practice of recording our committee meetings with the last meeting of the curriculum committee on March 19th, where there was a presentation completed regarding our science sequence. Right now, the minutes of that meeting and a link to the video are live on our board docs portion of our website. If you go into the library section, it takes you to the committee meetings, reports, and minutes, and there's a link that is working. I just tried it. To the recording of that presentation, and it is our plan to do so again at this Thursday's meeting for the curriculum committee and the presentation on K-8 literacy. From a logistics perspective, live streaming is difficult. It requires the team to be there. It requires setup. It's one of the reasons why we have located all of our meetings in the Baker Auditorium is because of the complexity of live streaming a meeting. Recording is far more feasible to be done in any of the environments that we host our meetings in. And Dr. Lander was able to post the recording of the curriculum committee meeting within 24 hours of the meeting having been completed. So I don't see that as any change to the workload. So to add the recording of our other meetings, budget advisory or otherwise, I don't think would be any additional burden on the staff to do as we did for curriculum.
Well, so thank you, and I'd like to thank Mr. Chen for the second and Dr. Bossert for the clarification. And just to remind my colleagues, I actually inquired about this earlier in the year, and council did say that this is possible and doable, and I do think it's timely. So maybe Dr. Bossert, if it's fine with you, we could just move, and if the board agrees, we could move the remaining meetings from the other locations here. This could be the central location if it makes it easier for the staff, if it should be the desire of the board. If I will modify my resolution as such, if it's the will of the board to support it. shall I change the resolution to say then that the meetings could be held here? Mr. Chen, would you like me to modify my resolution to say that we can have it here?
So for me, I think some of the meetings take place during the day, and I'm not sure if it's constructive to have meeting in this building, particular when there are school events happening. So I would like to propose the modification of recording the meetings but not having live. So I will support that.
As long as they're recorded, I can live with it, Mr. Chen.
I would say we can also consider that we table this issue and that we discuss it with our staff to understand what the optimal setting for those meetings would take place. I think, as Mr. Chen said, we all believe wholeheartedly 1,000% in transparency. That has been the hallmark of this board and our administration from day one. It's been a privilege of ours to create these committees and have these meetings. So without question, however else we can open it up to the public, we are absolutely committed to that. But it sounds to me like we might have some issues related to logistics that need to be worked out, at which point we can then consider the resolution and move forward in a way that is most efficient for the district.
Are you saying that we're going to make a commitment, Mr. Talk, that we are going to meet?
Well, we are already committed to transparency.
Well, no, I didn't. Let me just, I want to make sure that I heard what you said, though. You just said you want to table the issue, and we're about to close the meeting, and the dates are fast approaching. I want to make sure that we have a commitment that we will have the meetings as we're contemplating. And I see that Mrs. Perez has something to say as well, but I just want to make sure I understood you. You're asking to table the conversation.
Yes, it's okay. All right. There is a motion on the floor that you made and has been seconded. So as far as I'm concerned, we're having a discussion now about the motion, not the decision yet to vote on the motion. And so I would just like to comment on the motion. And Mr. Chen, you clarified something for me that I wasn't aware of, which is that as board members, even if we are not one of the two chairs, we may attend any of the other meetings as a member of the community, which I think is excellent, and that gives me information I didn't have before. So in a way, that is kind of removed from the discussion. I'm not done. Removed from the discussion. And secondly, the fact that we are already recording all of the meetings, and they will be placed on the website. The issues of the mechanics of live streaming, I think, are something that do need to be further discussed with staff and placement of the meetings, and that is the part that I think should be tabled. And therefore, I don't think it's possible for us to vote on your motion as stated at this point.
Oh, I understood that part, Mrs. Perez, but Mr. Talk, I'm not really ready to table if we could continue the discussion because it's not clear to me which meetings have been, it sounds to me, if I understood correctly, please clarify, only the curriculum meeting has been so far recorded. Isn't that right, Dr. Bossert?
Yes, that's correct. The curriculum committee meeting of March 19th has been recorded and archived and posted on the board docs on our website. And we have intentions of doing the same this Thursday. We will record the minutes and post a link to the video for the curriculum committee meeting of April 24th. If there is consent from the board to begin recording and archiving videos from each of our board committee meetings, then we shall do that. I am raising a concern with the logistics of placement and live streaming that I appreciate the board hearing, but recording is something that I think is easily achievable.
But I think that before you go on, Mr. Chen, I think that there's really a broader issue here than really just the logistics, Mr. Tak.
I think Mr. Chen was ready to speak.
Of course, by all means.
Yeah, I think just come to think of, I'm part of the safety committee meetings, and I am not sure if that's the best thing to do is to live record and for that particular committee, certainly, because there are some sensitive information that we do not want to share with people that might have malintent. So with that committee, I do have reservation being live and recorded.
Talk.
Thank you, Mr. Chen.
Thank you. Mr. Talk, may I?
Mrs. Suni, yes, you may.
Thank you. So I think that there needs to be some clarifications here because there seems to be some confusion amongst members of the board. So maybe I'll restate where we began. We began with a discussion that I initiated regarding board advisory committees. The district safety committee that was just referenced, that our colleague Mr. Chen is a liaison to, is actually not a board advisory committee. Rather, it's a district committee. There is a distinction, and of course, it is a very sensitive committee, and I would never personally recommend that committee be live streamed. Your point is well taken, but it is inapposite. I was rather referring to the Budget Advisory Committee, the Curriculum Advisory Committee, and the, what was the third? The Legislative Advisory Committees that we established as a board this year, and the fact that we made them as well public. I will also go so far as to say that although it sounds that some members of the board were unaware that they are able to attend as members of the public, that had been discussed, but what I am raising is that we should not be obligated to, as members of the board, have to attend each meeting in order to be fully apprised of what's going on. That actually creates issues of transparency amongst members of the board. So where it is the case...
Just so you know, I just want to interrupt there.
Certainly.
As you know, we all report back on our committee meetings with notes. So every member of the board is apprised of what transpires in those meetings. So that shouldn't be...
So are you maintaining, Mr. Tak, that the entirety of what is stated is being relayed?
Yes.
Okay, I have reason to believe that that's not actually the case. And moreover, that the discussions that have now been starting to be, that are bubbling up now before us by members of the public are the case in point. So I think it would be very, to use your word, transparent for us to really be considering how important it would be for our committee structures to allow the recordings to take place as we're considering, so that members of the board can be fully apprised of what's being discussed, so that we can all be fully apprised. That is the purpose. I will be more than glad to table it so that it can be effectuated appropriately, so that it can be done in a way that our administration can fully support. That is more than fine. But at the moment, it is very clear, as this discussion has elucidated, actually, that members of the board have different levels of access and different levels of appreciation of what's going on at each committee, and that is not useful.
Mrs. Suni, we all have equal access as board members. None of us have different access. We are all 5 equal members.
We are 5 equal members, but we do not have equal access to information, and that is precisely the point, and that is problematic, and it needs to be rectified. Thank you very much.
Again, I just want everyone to know that all members of the board have equal access to information.
And until and unless that is demonstrated, I would like the issue to be noted, and I look forward to it being rectified immediately. Thank you very much.
It is noted, but just for the record, all members of the board have equal access to all information. We are 5 equal members.
The motion is still on the table, Mr. Tak, and I look forward to you and the rest of the board considering it, and I look forward to the vote. Thank you.
So are you tabling the motion?
Mr. Tak tabled it. May I bring it back, Mrs. Perez? Will anyone second it? May we take a vote if I bring it back?
So I'll conclude from my end. This resolution was not brought up during our exec session, so certainly caught us, or at least myself, by surprise that this was the intent. But again, I support full transparency, and I think what we're getting hung up on is the technicalities of how do we make it more transparent, not less. I think it would be good that if we table this and to work with the administration to figure out what's the best way so the public could be informed on a timely manner. And I think, if I'm correct, that I've heard Dr. Basher said that all the meetings will be recorded. And it's one thing that we ask the administration to do things for the community, for the school district, but I certainly do not want to overburden people that are working hard in the district already. So I fully support the recording of all these board-led meetings, but I'm just not yet ready to vote on it because the logistics hasn't been ironed out at this very moment, Ms. Sassooni. So I asked if we could table this, and I promise you that you have my full attention and support on the recordings of the committee meetings.
Well, then, thank you very much. That's very well taken, Mr. Chen. And what if we were to just vote on doing it subject to the dates and the administration effectuating it?
On live recording or just the recording?
It'd just be audio recording.
I think we've all agreed to the recordings at this point. I'm not sure we've all agreed to that.
Well,
I think given our, we have unanimous support for 1,000% transparency. I think the only issue is with respect to live streaming and the logistics surrounding that. I think we were there about 15 minutes ago.
Mr. Tak, have you taken a vote? Because I didn't notice.
I just want to make sure. So I guess we could take a vote.
I think taking a vote would require a restating and separating of the two issues between live streaming and recording.
My pleasure.
There's one other thing here. With the legislative committee, we'd have to first speak with the elected officials who participate in those meetings to see if they would be okay with those arrangements.
Mr. Tak, as you're aware, that meeting has been canceled, so at the moment we can check that.
I'm just saying going forward, we would have to check with that.
Certainly.
Just want to make you aware.
So shall I restate the motion again, and then we can have it, as you said, Mrs. Perez, or would you like to restate it?
No, it's your motion,
Yes,
but
motion.
we need to separate the two parts of live streaming and recording.
Certainly. Upon motion by me that all of the remaining Board of Education advisory meetings of 2025, including curriculum, legislative, subject to the participation of the elected officials, and the budget committee be live streamed or recorded, subject to the availability of administration's ability to do so. And include presentation regarding the details of the anticipated field improvements at North Middle School for all those interested to evaluate this and be able to engage in untimed discussion associated with it.
I'm sorry, what about the fields?
That was really the point of this, because that is coming up, and as well, Thursday, April 24th's Curriculum Advisory Committee meeting, which was apparently going to be recorded anyway, Mr. Tak. Both dates were already referred to in the original discussion.
But the Curriculum Advisory Committee is not discussing fields. It's discussing literacy programs K through 8.
Mrs. Perez, I was interrupted when I was reading before. I referenced both dates. I referenced both.
Both what?
Both meetings were referenced when I first read what I read.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
That's quite all right. I simply said that the meetings of our advisory committees should be recorded or live streamed, subject to whatever our administrators are able to provide for the board. May I have a motion to support that?
I cannot support mentioning both things. I can support mentioning at this time recording.
That's fine with me. May I have a motion, may I have a second for that?
Second.
Would you like to take the vote, Mr. Tak?
All in favor? Oh, is there any further, sorry, is there any
Oh,
further
surely.
discussion?
Is there any further discussion?
All in favor?
I'm sorry, I'm still confused. What are we agreeing on? I'm very confused. Are we agreeing on what exactly? Things are not black and white for me, and in this case, I think I'm going to abstain.
So just to vote, because we literally have no writing of the resolution that's in front of us for us to vote, just to clarify, I think, Mrs. Suni, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you would like to have a recording of all the board advisory meetings for the remaining year, which I think each committee has one left. So if that is your resolution, I will second and support that as well.
Thank you. And of course, that it should be put on the district website.
Of course.
Yeah, so,
That's all. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
so all in favor? Aye. All
abstained.
opposed? One abstained. So the vote is four in favor, 0 against, 1 abstain.
Now I just need to make sure the administrative charge is clear to me. So what I'm hearing, the will of the board is that the 2 remaining curriculum committee meetings and the 1 remaining budget advisory committee meeting be recorded, archived, and linked under the board docs committee section to the website as we have done with the prior curriculum committee meeting. Correct?
Correct.
Correct. It shall be done. Thank you.
And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Thank you,
passes
everyone.
5-0. See everyone on May 12th.